Our first question for today is from Lokesh, saying that he visited a Ramakrishna Mission center near him and is ready to join, but is afraid to tell his parents. Remember, Lokesh, that in spiritual life, your parents' blessings, especially your mother's blessings, is very important. So try to convince them. And he says he's afraid. Don't be afraid. There is nothing to be afraid. If you're afraid, that means you're not yet strong in your conviction that this is the right path. So maybe you might have to wait till you get that conviction. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tried hard to convince his mother by speaking to her sweetly before he took the life of a sannyasi. Next question is from Vidula Tavadeji. Dear Swamiji, if Brahman is supreme, all-pervading and the ultimate reality, then all the pantheon of all our gods and goddesses just an appearance in our consciousness? No, they are not appearances in our consciousness. They are appearance in Brahman and are more real than all of us. As long as we see duality, as long as we see multiplicity, they are more real than anything that you see through these senses. That is why Sri Ramakrishna, when asked by Naren, Swami Vivekananda, have you seen God? What did he reply? He said, yes, I have seen, and I see God more intensely than I see you. What does that mean? So it's a subtler and intense experience than any sensory experience. So there is no question of them being unreal, all these gods and goddesses. In fact, it is the same Brahman which takes the form of, which condenses itself into a divine form based on the taste of the aspirant or what is suited to that aspirant, just out of compassion. So there is no question of gods and goddesses being unreal. And if we sincerely pray and have that yearning to have the vision of that particular god or goddess, you will have that vision, and in turn, by his or her grace, you will even realize the non-dual Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna says that is the easiest path in this Kali Yuga, because we are Annagata Prana, means we have our body identification is so strong that it is very difficult to follow the pure path of knowledge, where we have to immediately renounce whatever we find to be untrue, including our body and minds. If we see that, if you are convinced that they are unreal, we should be able to detach ourselves by sheer will, which is very difficult in this yuga. So that is why the path of bhakti, that is of intense yearning to a personal God, is the easiest. And once you have that, you can always transcend it if required. The mother herself, the divine mother, or your Ishta Devata, or the personal God, himself or herself, will show you the way to Nirguna Brahman if it is required. Next question is from Beamer. I know I have asked a lot of questions, but still I'll be obliged if you answer some questions. Okay. I am sinking every decade in terms of anxiety and speech defects. In spite of doing pranayama and self-hypnosis, can you advise any substantial solution? Can fire help me since controlling prana has been failing? Do you recommend any puja, Vedic or Tantric? Third question. Why did Parameshwar create such a system where bad deeds are done and someone needlessly suffers, and the person who did the bad karma suffers in the next life? Couldn't the bad karmas be stopped before they are done? Hope you answer my questions. So the only solution I can think of is service, seva. Now you ask why Parameshwar created all these sufferings for people. The answer is so that you can serve these underprivileged people and rise in your spiritual life. So imagine how important it is for us to raise ourselves. Because if we are in a plane of suffering, then we need people around us who are suffering more than us so that we can alleviate their suffering and thus rise in our spiritual life. So it is our moral responsibility that we raise ourselves to a level of joy. The minimum threshold that we should keep, the minimum bar should be so high that God doesn't need to give any more people around us who are lesser privileged than us. We don't need to serve them and raise them. So that should be our ideal, that we should raise ourselves to such an extent that we don't need anyone to suffer anymore. So I'm just giving you a reason. If you ask the why, there is no question of, ultimately there is no question of God giving any suffering to anyone. And as far as bad actions are concerned, there are no actions which are good or bad. There is no absolute good or absolute bad in this world. When we do certain karmas, we have to face the consequences. Now, if we don't like them, we call it bad. That's all there is. So, if we can accept all the consequences, then there is no good or bad actions. It is just as it is. So, the only way I find is try to serve those who are underprivileged compared to you. You will definitely find someone who is not having the privilege that you have. None of us are the worst sufferers in the world. Anyone who thinks so, he or she should look around and see, and they will definitely find someone who has, at least someone who needs something from them. And when you have that attitude of giving, automatically you will transcend your own suffering and your own sense of this little me. Because all suffering is in the mind. Physical suffering, of course, we have to take care of it. But mental suffering is much more self-created, we can say, which we can transcend ourselves. Physically, we may need external help. Mentally also, to some extent, we can take external help. I remember you saying you are under treatment. So you are doing that. But apart from that, what we can do? Try to forget yourself by serving others. The moment you think of the welfare of others, immediately there is a sense of expansion and your mind settles down. Unselfishness is God, Swamiji says. It's not a simple statement. It's a profound statement. Because there are two movements in this world. Swamiji says in his Karma Yoga, one is Pravritti and one is Nivritti. Pravritti is from this sense of self-centeredness, that you are attracting, you are trying to grab things, you are grasping things from this world towards yourself. And that can ultimately cause only misery, because you are trying to create a fictitious self, whereas the whole universe is undivided. Everything is related and there is no division in absolutely. In the absolute sense, there is no division. But we create a division so that we can enjoy our own selfish small me. So as long as that is there, there will be suffering. So anything, the other marga is called Nivritti marga. And the Nivritti marga is when you try to forget your own little me, this self-center, by expanding yourself, by serving others. So that is the way. In fact, all the four yogas, Swamiji says, have all the paths in spiritual life has one goal, self-abnegation, forgetting this little self and trying to be the universal. Next question is from Payal Datta. Maharaj, I have a question, please give me answers. After I start my japa, if some negative thought comes, should I stop japa and start all over again, or shall I continue? If you are talking about the count, yes, you can start all over again, but do not stop and wait for the negative thoughts to go away, because it's like saying you have a problem arising and you will stop the medicine and wait till the problem goes away. That is ridiculous, right? Japa is the ultimate medicine. The word is God. So when you are doing japa, you are with God. You are in the holy presence. It's like the seed which you are watering. The japa, the mantram is the seed of God. So that seed you water, and then that holy presence sprouts, blooms inside your heart. So that is the whole purpose. So being in the company of the divine is more important than paying attention to these negative thoughts, negative or positive or whatever kind of thoughts. Your attention actually energizes it. So don't give it attention. It will pass away like the water which flows under the bridge. It's not going to stay. So don't give it attention. Even if you fail to remember the count, go on repeating the mantra. If you want, you restart. But don't stop the mantra and wait for the mind to be quiet. It's like saying, I'll take bath in the sea once the waves subside. It's never going to happen, right? It's never going to happen. Next is a comment on the video which says, does Holy Mother listen to our prayers? The comment says, this is forgetting Sachidanand and becoming body-mind to ask Mother to remember. That is true in one sense, but how many of us can continuously be in that Sachidananda outlook, that maintain that attitude that we are Sachidanand? We need help sometimes, right? We fall back into the level where we think that we are persons, we are individuals. At that moment, especially since we all have this emotional faculty, we need to hold on to someone. We feel the need. If you don't feel the need, yes, you don't need it. But the reality, we have to be closer to where we stand. We have to start from where we are right now. We have to be grounded. So, when we look in our daily lives and see that we need some emotional support, then it's self-assuring. It gives that emotional stability to even think that there is a divine power, a feminine mother, motherly power or divine grace, which is always looking after us and is remembering us. So that gives this assurance to a devotee, and he or she can then use that as the platform to build up their spiritual lives. So these are the questions so far. As and when more questions come in, we'll have more such sessions. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sad. May all be happy. May all be peaceful. May all be blissful. May all receive the divine grace. Om. Peace, peace, peace.